Okay, so can you please state your name for the record?
Attorney David, Y-A-D-I-D-I, appearing for Appellant.
Okay. So we did go over the background of the appeals process. Would you like me to review that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so a party can file an appeal if they believe that the manager's decision is not supported by the evidence or is not in accordance with the Los Angeles Municipal Code. We will have 10 minutes for each party to give their statement. If you are the appellant, you can reserve 2 to 3 minutes for rebuttal after the other party gives their statement. We already reviewed, each one of these commissioners have reviewed the packet that we're given from the hearing examiner with all the evidence that was heard at the hearing. So this is what we are using. There's no new evidence at this time. Everything is in here already. Okay, so we can go ahead and begin. State your name for the record. Yes.
Edgar Manatsakanyan and my father, Pavel Manatsakanyan.
Okay. All right.
And are they going to withhold some time?
Would you like to hold?
Yes, we're going to withhold 2 minutes for rebuttal. Should we start?
Yes.
Or should you?
We're timing it, so go ahead.
Okay. Basically, our appeal is based on the code, Los Angeles Municipal Code 53.34.4C, where basically there's 11 elements that are considered. It may be one by one. I've gone through it in the appeal about history. May it be the amount of victims, the location, the provocation, property damage, characteristics of aggression, unpredictable temperament, and training and retrain to change its temperament, behavior, maintenance, all these different 11 elements. Out of the 11 elements, 10 and a half elements have been to the favor of the appellants. There's only half of one element, which is basically favoring the general manager's decision. And it's basically the severity of the injury. It was a severe bite because of the size of the dog, but if we go through one by one, prior history, the dogs had no prior history whatsoever, never had any type of reports or record or anything like that, been playing with small children the entire time. Number two, the amount of victims. The other side is the only victim. There was one victim, which is another favoring factor. The location, the front of the home, where the location of the home was. It wasn't on the street, it wasn't somewhere where it was somewhere that basically the dog was let go free or in the public, or it was a sudden getting out of the backyard, which was really unpredictable because he was locked behind 2 separate gates, one for a private dog run and another one for the backyard. And it was a very unfortunate circumstance that both gates ended up being open at the very same time, where the victim was basically going by at the same time. One issue that wasn't spoken about was provocation. Basically, what the victim had done in numerous instances before is doing karate kicks and punches in the street, and even though they've asked him to stop and the dog was getting really upset and feeling that this was aggressive, he was with the elderly gentleman, Mr. Pavel Manasyan at the time. And dogs are known, especially this breed, to be protective. And he has basically neighbors, Donna Bistone has told him not to do such a behavior. But there's no notice of the provocation because it wasn't properly discussed in the hearing. It wasn't even questioned. And if it was not for the karate kicks and punches and aggression, the dog would have never jumped out of the backyard and turned around and done that. It's not only this dog that's basically gotten very upset and aggressive. All the dogs on the entire block start barking violently because of the karate maneuvers that the victim's been practicing for 20 years, and he practices on the street right in front of the house. So that's an important factor. This is probably the most important factor that wasn't discussed. If it was not for the provocation, then the attack would have never have happened. Going to element 5, absolutely no property damage, no characteristics of aggression. That's number 6. No characteristics of aggressive, unpredictable temperament or behavior. Going back to the report, the leash was put on the dog. The animal control officer just jumped him into the back of the truck with no problem and no aggression and no issues whatsoever. And same thing with where he's been stored. Nobody's had a problem with the dog. Nobody's had a problem afterwards. He hasn't been aggressive, hasn't had bad temperament. And then the other issue, number 8, is whether the dog could be retrained or basically fixed in temperament behavior. Appellant is offering to take any suggestion for classes or any type of muzzling or anything that the examiners feel that is necessary in order to train the dog, even if it's a 1-year course with the dog whisperer or whatever the examiners would want, open to that.
Can you respond to the fact that the dog is unaltered without no license or proof of current rabies vaccine?
The dog had
That's right.
rabies
We have
vaccine,
proofs.
and
But
it
the
was
city had no proof of it.
No, I provided to the examiner.
It was provided at the very beginning with there was a letter from the veterinarian saying that he had all of his shots up to date, that he had no aggressions, no issues, no problems. It wasn't filed with the city. I don't know if there's a process.
The
for
law,
filing.
the law asked for that.
Requires for it to be, but he was vaccinated in the
Okay, but
vaccination.
there was no license and the dog is unaltered.
It was a fairly new dog. How long have
No,
you had it?
the dog was licensed with AKC, yeah.
It's a special breed that was licensed through ATC, which wasn't.
The law requires that the dog be licensed with the city, and
Correct.
so there was a violation of a city ordinance in that regard.
But that is
And-
one of the 11 elements.
But it
Improper.
does go to the
It's a
fact that
question,
are you
though.
able to follow the city ordinances. If this dog is returned to the appellants,
Yes.
that's one of the things that we consider, because the law wasn't followed in the beginning of the statute, the ordinance. So it does go to it, so it is relevant.
I can understand where you're saying it's relevant, but me as the average person would not know about this.
So you're a lawyer, you know ignorance of the law is not a defense.
But a commonality of the public of having unregistered dogs, probably 6 or 7 out of 10
That
people.
doesn't go over with us.
I understand it doesn't go over, but that would be basically an element as to maintenance. That's the closest factor that you'd be discussing, proper maintenance, the manner in which it was maintained by its owner or custodian.
Has a dog, it hasn't been neutered now, has it? Has it been fixed?
No, it's not neutered. Excuse me, can I
Yes.
tell something? When I bought the dog, I registered it with AKC, American Kennel Club, and I did all the shots. I have 2 veterinarian. Nobody told me. First time I've been informed about the city license when this happened with the examiner. Before that, I never knew that I should license the dog with the city, because I have a license with AKC. I was attending the veterinarian, they did the shots. Nobody told me before that I should do that with the city.
And
Okay.
for the future, now you know.
Yeah, I know, of course.
Okay.
Commissioner Gross actually had a question, though, and the question was, why wasn't the dog altered?
Because it's a poor breed, so I was thinking that I can use for the breeding also.
Are you aware that unless you have a breeder's license, that it's actually illegal in the city to have an unaltered dog?
I didn't know about it. I wasn't aware about that.
He's had the dog very recently. How old was it? 8 months or a year?
No,
Two?
2.5,
About
3,
2.
no, almost 3.
How long have you had the dog?
Since it was 4 months old when I
How old is the dog now?
3?
3.
3. He was a
3 years?
he was
Yeah,
a
I'm
small,
trying to.
tiny puppy.
So you
with-
had about a decent amount of time to get the dog fixed or neutered,
I mean,
correct?
it was 5 months or 6 months or when I.
Do you believe in spay and neutering? Do you believe in neutering dogs, or
Honestly, I don't want a neutering.
you don't want to neuter your
I
dog?
would like to take a license, or because I think it's bad for the
There is
animals.
an exception for certain breeds that are very hard to find. He's an Argentinian Drago, which could be given to a breeder to license to basically breed. I think there's a certain age they're not allowed to be neutered before. I believe it's 1 or 2 years old, so he's right outside of the allowance.
Why is the clock at 0, by the way?
Oh, it's already past. It's been 8 minutes, yeah. Actually, in the hearing examiner's report, it says the dog is 4.5 years.
It's 4.5 what?
Years.
Oh, years.
More than the paperwork.
Oh.
I just wanted to make
Yeah,
that clarification.
Should we hear the other side? And
Yes, let's go ahead, and then we'll come back.
My name is Kimon Rethus. Can you guys hear me? Dear members of the appeal board, I have never harassed or bothered the dog that attacked me, or any other dog for that matter. On the contrary, I have done everything in my power to stay away from this dog. Please look at the photographs of this 120-pound Argentine dodo to think that I would harass this dog. On the day I was attacked, it was without warning or provocation. I was attacked from behind. I was 60 feet past their house. The last interaction I ever had with this dog must have been months ago. The assertions that I practice martial arts in the street are absurd. The assertion that I intentionally agitated the neighborhood dogs in any way is absurd. All I've ever done is go for a jog. I had 2 dogs. We would jog by the house. Their dog would go crazy at my 2 dogs. I stopped bringing my dogs in order to stop agitating their dog. Miss Basone also, they live across the way, she also has multiple aggressive dogs. Imagine for a second that you're jogging down your neighborhood and then a woman comes out and says, "Don't jog down here, you're agitating, your dogs are bothering my dogs." And you kind of react rationally and normally and you go, "But, I'm just jogging my dogs past your house." And I'm staying in the middle of the road because on the one side is their Argentine dodo, maniacally aggressive and barking. And on her side, she has multiple dogs. So to make a long story short, I simply stopped bringing my dogs on a jog. When I saw the appeal letter, I was flabbergasted. I mean, they only mentioned martial arts in this case because I happened to mention at the initial hearing that I thought that helped me survive the dog attack. This dog almost took me out if you looked at the wounds that I suffered. When the owner told me that the dog had a particular dislike for me, I suggested it was because I used to jog with my 2 dogs, one of which is a large male dog, which agitated their dog. Note that I have seen Mr. Pavel's dog react with aggressive barking to other dogs, not just my dog. As I said, I eventually stopped bringing my dogs with me on jogs to avoid the commotion of Mr. Pavel, of Mr. Montaign's dog. And on the occasions that I saw the elder gentleman walking the dog, as soon as I saw the dog, I turned right around and I went the other way. And in their appeal letter, they said that the dog felt defensive for the elder gentleman. I've never been within 50 yards of the elder gentleman on a walk. If I saw him walking in the neighborhood with that dog, I literally turned and went with my dogs the other way. That dog would have killed my dogs in 2 minutes. So I've done everything, contrary to what they're asserting, I've done everything in my power to stay away from this dog. And I will note, and I'll pause here, I didn't need 10 minutes. I was attacked from behind without any warning or provocation. I didn't see the dog the day that I was attacked. I was well past their house. I had done nothing to it. I probably haven't been within 20 yards of this dog ever. And the lawyer's assertion that the primary cause was my provocation because I was going down the street doing martial arts is absolutely false. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of questions, if it's all right. Your medical expenses, what was who paid for the medical expenses?
I have insurance. I believe the total bill is about $190,000 at this point.
And it came off of your insurance, however? It didn't?
Yes, sir.
So when you were attacked, did they take any steps to console you or to help you in any way?
At the time of the attack, it was the elder gentleman who came and got the dog off of me. I was on my back screaming, help, help, help. I got up and I left right away. So I was only 100 yards. I mean, we live 100 yards from each other. I walked back to my house bleeding in shock, and I called 911 and told my wife. The younger gentleman came by the day after I got out of the hospital and said he was sorry.
And this is just out of curiosity, not that this is necessarily a responsibility, but would there be a scenario where if the dog was trained or the like, would there be a scenario where you would be comfortable with them keeping the dog? And it's almost an unfair question. You don't even have to answer it if you don't want to.
You know, I will answer it because I have dogs. I
Yeah.
have foster dogs. I have adopted dogs. My daughter volunteers at the local animal shelter. So do I want to see the dog put down? Not really, to be honest with you. But I will also say that dog almost killed me.
Yeah.
And had I not fought, I would not be here. And to your question of is there a scenario? Yeah, I mean, ideally, if it moves, if it goes far away,
Yeah.
would be my ideal scenario. The main thing is that this never happened to me or anybody else again.
Right.
Had it been to anybody else, it would have been much worse. And I was mauled badly. I was attacked from behind.
We've seen the photos. It's harrowing.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
It's a nightmarish, and it still affects me today. You can see my emotion as I'm trying to relay this to you guys. But the direct answer to your question is that I have no desire for revenge on the dog.
Okay.
Can I phrase it that way?
And just to be really clear, it's not your responsibility to make that decision. We'll make this decision independent of that, but I appreciate your answering it for us. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, on to the rebuttal.
Okay. The rebuttal is basically the laws to give justice to every person or dog equally. So if we turn around and basically every dog bite, whether it be, if it's heavier, then we turn around and put the dog down. If it's lighter, we let the dog go. Even the victim had a German Shepherd. It bit his gardener, and nothing happened to the dog. No issues with that. And the dog's perfectly fine. Now we turn around in this case, and the dog's bigger. The dog's probably 150 pounds. It's going to cause injury. If it was a small Chihuahua or a small dog, it would have not caused those injuries.
Thank you for making our case, though. What you just said is the dog's bigger is going to cause more injury. That means that there's radically more responsibility on the part of your client. Radically more responsibility.
But
So you've actually done a pretty good job of making your case, but you occasionally really argue against your own interests.
you have to understand there's the 11 elements that you have to consider.
And those are well argued. But
And-
anyway, I'm going to let you finish your time.
I mean, just to interject also, so we see a lot of these cases, as you say. I don't recall seeing something as severe as these wounds. I mean, these are pretty serious wounds.
There was one, Commissioner Gross, do you remember the man who had his testicles ripped out?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I just wanted to remind you.
Yeah.
Because I'll never forget that.
Yes. Well.
But
and-
this is, I'm sorry, I don't mean to make light of any
And
situation.
our main concern here is public safety, so it's not about
understand.
fairness, it's about people not being harmed in the future, unfortunately.
I do have a question, since, sir, you do seem to be responsible enough to have hired a good attorney, and you certainly seem to care about your dog. Why didn't you offer for your insurance to cover?
My insurance is covering his expenses. When he says he has an insurance, there is a claim to my insurance, not his insurance.
There's
And my
a-
insurance will cover all
There's a
that
multi-million
expenses.
dollar policy
I
that's
see.
available
Okay.
that he has an attorney and he's filing soon. There's offers for
that the
hundreds of
case?
thousands of dollars
Okay.
on the table.
But not for the medical. I mean, my lawyer's going for the homeowners insurance.
Your
Yeah.
lawyer already contacted me, my insurance, and my insurance sent me letter waiting
Okay,
for the final.
I have my
agreement.
answer. Thank you.
Yeah, has-
I have my answer.
But I want to say something.
Sure.
When you guys say that I hired good lawyer, because I think that it is not fair to make my dog as dangerous. Even if it wasn't my dog, when somebody knows my dog, everybody will say that he is a very kind dog. The dog plays with my kids. The dog never shows.
I'm sorry.
Let me finish, please.
Actually, your time is up, and this was in the testimony, and I believe everything you're saying, but it doesn't help your case. Okay, not for me at least. So shall we deliberate?
Okay. The gentleman just said that my dog bit a gardener. Where?
It's okay. We're not hearing that case.
It's not part of this.
I think he was just making
One
a
case at a
general
time.
comment.
Oh, I see. It was
Yeah.
just theoretical. That never happened. Just
Okay.
You can
You can take a seat.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
how long does the deliberation process take?
it'll be about right now.
The letters to them?
We're going to talk about
No
it.
new evidence.
Thank you.
This is not new. It was attached.
All right, so
Letters from the neighbors.
We read them.
Do we have that in our file?
If it's in, yeah, there's some in here.
So where I'm coming from on this is I certainly appreciate the letters of the neighbors. I certainly appreciate that the dog is very friendly most of the time. But, my view on this, it's a public safety issue. This dog almost killed that man, almost killed the man. And if that had been a baby, if it had been a child, we'd be dealing with a death here. This is a dangerous animal.
I concur with your sentiments, and I also, just based on the hearing and the hearing examiner's conclusion and the general manager, I don't see any basis for.
Right, and so just to be clear to everyone here, there are things that are out of our hands. We can only overturn the hearing officer if the hearing officer did not have basis for making their decision. The hearing officer clearly had basis for making this decision, and if we allow an animal like this, if we overturn it, we place the city at real risk of, and the public at real risk of danger. And I do want to say that personally, I don't believe that this is just a dangerous animal. I think when you have an animal of that size and that capability, that's like having an assault weapon, and you just have to, I'm not saying, that might be a little bit strong because an assault weapon is illegal. It's like having a powerful gun, and you have tremendously additional responsibilities if you have a gun like that, to keep it locked up, right in the same situation. This dog should not have been free in that moment. So this is a terribly hard choice. Commissioner Gross and I have been making decisions like this for over 6 years. It's horrible, but the only comfort that I can find is in protecting the public and in basically the fact that the law is very clear about what our responsibilities are, and we don't really have a choice in this situation.
Yes, this is an unfortunate case because it seems as if the dog is a friendly dog. For the most part, there's no prior incidences. However, this one incident is extreme. And just based on that alone, I would not feel comfortable overturning the decision because it really mauled and hurt this man, and we can't take those chances that it may happen again.
I just want to say that I don't have any sympathy for breeders. It's a sad story. It's a sad situation that a dog has to be put down because of the owners, the owner not being responsible.
So I'll make a motion that we move to uphold the general manager's decision.
I'll second. There's a motion by Commissioner Gross, a second by Commissioner Finston. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes with 5 ayes.
So that concludes our appeal hearings for today. And so we're back on our regular agenda.